my mantra is it's allowed to be easier. You can work
Yeah.
less and it's allowed to be easy. Like that's what I tell my clients, you know?
Yeah. Well, welcome. I'm glad that you're here.
I'm Kamina James, coach for creative people. I help people make money being creative so they don't have to have a 9 to 5 job.
So I am curious about like how you got started with coaching so that people can do something a little different than a 9 to 5. How did you transition from whatever you were doing before?
Yeah, so this current round, I have a transition story which I'll tell, but I've actually coached before. Like I've always been an educator in some capacity and supported people. I've always, when I was like a teenager, I was teaching piano and I was teaching ballet classes, and then when I was in my 20s, I had this little business helping people to transition to a plant-based diet because it's something that I know a lot about. And so I used to go to people's houses and teach them to cook and take them grocery shopping. And I was calling myself a coach then, but I didn't really know much about coaching. This was kind of before the coaching industry exploded. So I was just sort of using that word. And then I was working as an academic and so kind of walking alongside people. My favorite part was always helping students to learn the techniques of doing research and writing their assignments really well. Like I was always more interested in helping people with that than I was in teaching the actual subjects.
Right.
And so then, so then I had a baby nearly about a year and a half ago, and just did that classic thing of I was thinking about going back to work and I was doing little bits of academic and freelance work here and there. And it was actually my mum walked into my apartment one day and was like, "You should be a coach." And I was kind of like, "What? I'm tired, Mom. What are you talking about? I got a 7-month-old baby or something." And she was like, "Yeah, you should be a coach. I'm going to watch this webinar today about being a coach." And I was like so annoyed. She was like, just playing this webinar in my house. It went for
Mm.
so long and I was so tired and I had this baby and I was like, "Mom, I don't even like him watching screens. Why is the screen on?" But the thing was, I started to kind of listen to it and was like, "Oh yeah, I should do this because I love helping people with stuff and educating people and supporting them to meet their goals. This is totally my jam." And I have had online businesses before, and this would be really easy to set up. In fact, oh my gosh, I've actually done this before. I have coached before. So it's just this light bulb moment of like, oh,
Right.
duh, that's what I would like to do. And so really quickly, I just set up an online business and like off to the races. Here I am a
And there
year
you
or so
were.
later. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Um, before that, you um, you were doing academic work and all of that.
Mm,
How did you prior to making the switch? Obviously, being a new mom is exhausting.
yeah.
So, how did you recognize in yourself like the idea of going back to work? There was burnout there. There was like, I'm not
Mm,
sure that that's the path for
mm,
me. Like,
yeah.
because I did not go back after maternity leave, and that was not the
Mm,
plan. And
yeah.
I actually worked the same week that I had both my babies. Like, but I was doing something very
Wow.
different. I wasn't like going to my regular job.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was teaching classes, and to me, that didn't feel like work. And babies are at odd
Mm,
hours anyway. So 4 o'clock in the morning at my time was no, like, I was like, yeah, fine,
yeah.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
it's not whatever. So how did you know going back was
Mm.
maybe not in the cards?
Well, I should clarify that when I say going back to work, I had actually ditched conventional work 8 years previous to that. So I had
Okay.
gotten burned out. I had gotten burned out probably 8 years ago, like about 2017, I think is when I say I left my real job, my
Okay.
last real
Mhm.
job. And so I was working as a freelancer. I was working so sometimes as an academic, but really on a contract basis. So it would be like a college would say to me, "Can you teach one class for the semester?" And I would say,
Right.
"Yeah,
Right.
sure." But it was just like a very free and easy contractual arrangement. I could always say no for next semester. And then I was working as a freelance writer and making money that way. And then sometimes just doing random other creative things as well. But even that, so at that, I was more kind of heavily focused on my academic career at the time that I had the baby. And when I, at 6 months, kind of went back to showing up once a week for a class, he was fine. But I was like, oh, this is like really tiring and annoying having to be somewhere at a time that I said, like when
Right.
you've got
Yeah.
a baby. And so,
Yeah.
I just really liked the idea of going into something that was more flexible and more like low prep because I think when you've got that brain after having a kid when you're so tired, the idea of doing lots of research or deep writing work was hard for me, whereas I can show up as a coach and deliver for my clients. And I know that they're getting a really good coach, even if I haven't slept the night before, because it's just something that comes quite naturally to me.
It's ingrained,
So
right?
yeah, so that made a lot more sense for me. And it's funny you talk about you didn't go back to work and that wasn't the plan, because the thing that kick started me as a coach, my massive motivation was, oh, I want women to not have to go back to work after they've had a baby. And when
Mm-hmm.
I first started, I was sort of marketing myself to that. I was marketing myself to mums. Then so many people in my circles were kind of drawn to me who weren't mums that I started working more with creatives, because I realized that's really where the gold lies for me, because I've been a creative a lot longer than I've been a mum. And
Right.
so helping people to make a like steady income out of creative work is something that I've done for a long time. So that's what I focus on now. But a lot of my audience and my clients are mums, because I just thought I do not want women to have to go back to a job and put their baby in daycare if they don't want to do that, or
Yeah.
if it's not working for them because of the energy levels and the exhaustion and they just can't sustain it. I don't want them to be forced into going back to work for financial reasons. I want to free them. So that was a big motivation for me.
Which I love that because like so separate from what I do here, I'm also an author. So like
Cool.
I was for a little while, I was like trying to focus on creatives, building creative businesses. And I was like, but along my 5 years after having my daughters shifting into coaching, I've been focused on
Mm.
moms
Yeah.
in their mental health, their work-life balance.
Hmm.
And I kept like backing off because I was like, oh, I don't know if that's what they want. But what shifted it for me was I found a way to use my skill set of like
Yeah.
psychoeducation on my terms from home, which
Mm.
ended up being really good because we had our daughter in 2019 and our son in the spring of 2020.
Yeah. Wow.
And so being able to not have to go back to an office when the world was shutting down
Yeah.
was great. And I realized we had to go on a trip for my husband at in the winter of 2019, like December.
Mm.
And I was able to do my work from where we were. Like I
Mm.
limited my hours. I did take time off because we were like on a
Mm.
trip. But I was still able to pick up some work while we were there and it was easy work. Like it was work that I didn't have to like think about. It was just natural. It's what I'd been doing this whole time in a different way. It was
Yeah.
great. And I was like, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And now that I've opened a private practice, most of my work days are from home.
Yeah.
I have two in office days. This week it was only one because my clients yesterday were all online. And that works so well because I can still do drop off. I can still do pickup. Like now that my kids are
Mm.
in school, and if we decide to shift to homeschool, I can adjust my schedule to that. Whereas if I
Yeah.
were to solely go back to community mental health or an
Mm.
in-person private practice, it just wouldn't be feasible. So
Yeah.
I like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just cannot imagine having a 9 to 5 job. I couldn't make my life work because of my mental health stuff and my husband's mental health stuff and our parenting. In order for us to flourish, I'm like, how do people do this? They have to go to work every day and you have to stay there until they say you can leave, even if you feel really, really tired. I don't want to do
Right. Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is yeah, that is very important to me too, but I'm also not a business coach. And so what
Hmm.
I've been telling people is like I am not a business coach, I'm your life management coach.
I
So
love
like
that. Yeah.
I and I've been slowly building a group of resources for them too, like people like you that focus on like building some of these creative industries, how they make money, how
Yeah.
they manage the money, or like
Yeah.
podcasting. Like I don't teach podcasting, but I have a couple of connections that do. So if
Hmm.
they're like, "Oh, I want to build this into my business or whatever it is." But I do the work-life balance stuff. I do the practical strategies for like
Yeah.
keeping you sane while you're trying to do this because even building your own business while you have a baby or two kids at home or three kids at home is a lot. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, how did you identify for yourself, like 8 years ago, that you were burning out in this? Were you still in academia at the time?
No, so that was I mean, I was doing my master's degree. So I
Okay.
guess I was actually researching and I was thinking about doing a PhD, but I didn't end up doing it straight away because I burned out. No, it just was really, really, really obvious that me and my husband were really, really not coping with our
Right.
lives.
Yeah.
Like we were young, we were in our mid, maybe late 20s, I think about 27 or something. We were just really, really tired. I know he won't mind me saying this, he at the time had undiagnosed ADHD. So now he has a diagnosis and we understand why he was really struggling. to cope with his workload and just making everything like sort of bigger and harder and more complicated than it needed to be, and routinely staying up until 4 o'clock on a Saturday night to write the talk that he Saturday morning, Sunday morning, like he'd be up until 4 a.m. to,
Right. Of course. Yeah.
be in church at 9 and and give the talk, because it was just relentless pace of work and it's hard for him to keep that up. And we were just, yeah, we were really exhausted. We were both, I would say we both had depression and anxiety. It was quite obvious to us both. Our marriage was really, really unhappy for a season. We were just feeling really broken. We were really tired. And it was just that feeling of like, we're going to explode, something has to give. And so when we kind of really got to crisis point, I just remember sitting down with my husband one night, and look, to his credit, I mean, he was just so endlessly loving. I was like so unhappy that I wasn't even in problem solving mode for our marriage, and he had nothing really left to give. Like his resources were so depleted, and yet he was able to hear what was going on, recognize that it was an emergency, and make a plan. Like, okay, I'm gonna quit my job, and we're gonna move here, and we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna try and give you everything that you need to kind of shift our life around to be happy again. And we did it. Like, I'm just really still in awe to this day that he supported that and he managed to drive that. And so we quit the job, we moved, we had to move house because we were living in a manse. And so the house came with the job. It was this
Right.
huge, it was this huge 4-bedroom house. And we moved into this little 1-bedroom unit. We got rid of all of our stuff. It was in the city. Like, wait, I kind of said to him, could we live in the city, like close to like the center of town, in a way that was kind of like, oh no, that would be too expensive. We'd never do that. But we just did it because it was kind of a dream we'd always had. And we lived in this quirky little like apartment. Oh my gosh, it was so great. And we were really sad for about 2 years, but we healed together. And
Right. Yeah.
um, and that's when we started, after a year or so of just being really, we just both got quite menial jobs. Like he started working as a barista. I started working in an office, like doing reception work, which is something I'd done when I was like a teenager. And we just rested for a year or so and tried to get our relationship back together. And then when we were feeling better, we started a creative copywriting business together.
Okay. And then how did that go? How has that been going? Or how did that go?
Yeah, so we don't do it in the same form anymore, but it went great for a couple of years. So my husband's first degree was in creative writing, so he was kind of like the writer in inverted commas. But I also had like what I needed to have to be able to do that work well, and so we started this business together. It went great pretty much straight away. Like we started to make some part-time income from it straight away. The following year, the company that I was working for decided to shut down, and I was like, great, I don't need to get another job. I can make enough money out of doing this. And I did. I got a couple of really great contracts. Like I ghost wrote some books for entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And there's definitely money in that if you can find
Yes.
wealthy entrepreneurs who want writing projects. So I started doing that kind of high level work. And meanwhile, my husband was sort of branching off into, he's an expert in craft beer, which
Okay.
is like an interesting niche. And it's like it was a hobby of his and a real love. And then he started writing more and more about craft beer and got sort of a freelance job, which then became sort of a permanent part-time thing for a craft beer website, like the biggest craft beer website here in Australia. And so he started taking clients that were more like craft beer clients, like breweries, and like writing the labels on beers and stuff like that.
Right.
Writing websites for breweries, that kind of thing. He wrote some text that went onto that was printed on the wall of a brewery. So he started specializing in that. And meanwhile, I was over here sort of working for corporates and working with entrepreneurs. And so we sort of split up our partnership, our business partnership, and became just more like we're just going to do individual stuff because we'd found our own niches. And so then I did that through doing my PhD. I decided I was going to go back and do a PhD on something that I was passionate about, but I supported myself through that by doing writing. And then it kind of tapered off when I had our baby in 2023. And then, yeah, I kind of took a little rest and then came back and was like, I'm going to do coaching. So now I still do freelance writing. Like that's one of my income streams is freelance writing. And then the other one is coaching people to make money out of things like writing. Yeah.
Okay. So now that you're coaching people, if there
Mm,
is someone listening who's like, I talk to women who are already growing businesses or who are like start something but I don't know where to start, and that's
Hmm.
it. And I still work with them through that process. So how do you tell people where to start or to know that, hey, maybe this is a good path for you or things like that?
Hmm. It's so cool that you name those two kinds of people because that's exactly kind of the two kinds of people. I always say to people, I can help you start your creative income stream or I can help you grow it
Mhm.
if you've already got one but it's not working for you. So it's always start or grow your creative income stream. And so how do I tell people how to start? First thing that I teach people, and actually, I'm giving a little sneak preview here. So I'm launching a group course in July, end of July, which is going to be about starting or growing your creative income stream. And one of the first things we're going to do together in that course, and what I currently do with one-to-one clients, is I help people to basically write down what I call their magic mix,
Okay.
which is like your mix of your skills, your experience, your job experience, your qualifications, your non-employment experience, your personal life experiences, your personality, the things you're just really good at. I make people think that all through and write that all down because a lot of people are not even aware of the skills and experience they have that's
Oh, yeah.
monetizable. Because we
Mhm.
so tend to underestimate ourselves, right? And be
Yes.
like, oh, no one would want to pay for that. And the thing we do as well is we go, oh, that thing that I do that's like really easy for me. I don't think that really counts. That's not really a thing that people would pay for. And I always say to people, oh my gosh, if it's easy for you, it definitely counts. You should be paid more for something you're naturally really good at. Like it's not,
Yeah.
don't downplay it, just because you think it's easy and it doesn't count. Lots of people can't do that and they'd want to be able to do that. So, yeah, so that's my little rant. So the starting point is that I encourage people basically to see the amazing goodness that they have to offer. And I don't know where this comes from, but I'm just quite skilled at being like, yep, you can monetize that. And that's how you can do it. And this is how we'll pitch it. And this is how much you can charge for it. I think I just grew up with sales in my blood. My mom is a really good salesperson, and she sold lots of different things, but particularly things like property. And so I'm just without, I don't feel any of that baggage around, like trying to sell things to people. And I'm really good at helping people sell themselves because I'm like,
Right.
you're amazing. You've got this beautiful skill. People would definitely want to pay for that. This is how we can position you and you'll get clients or you'll find business. This is what we can do. So I think I just help people to see what they could do and then help them take away the scaries around things like, I don't know anything about marketing myself, or I'm scared of earning money because I don't know how to do the books and I'm going to get in trouble from the powers that be and I have to pay taxes, or like I just walk people through all of those things and help them to educate themselves about what they need to know. And my really big thing, because of my personal history, is helping people to make good money without overworking because we
Right.
overwork when we don't need to. And that's probably something that you do too, is
Yeah.
like it's actually safe and possible for you to like do less and earn more money because you're
Yeah.
probably killing yourself doing the wrong things. And so for me to just constantly be pointing you back to it's okay if you just focus on that. If you just deliver that, that's all they need. You can take the money and go home. Don't overwork yourself?
Yeah. And that is something
Yeah.
I focus on. So I'm kind of a burnout and balance coach. And so like helping
Yeah.
recover from burnout, avoid it in the
Mm,
future, and balance
mm.
everything out because that is, but I focus less on the business side and more on the mental health side of
Yeah.
things.
I'm
And
so
that's
anti
it.
hustle. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
My mantra is it's allowed to be easier. You can work
Yeah.
less and it's allowed to be easy. Like that's what I tell my clients?
Yeah. Well, and I work with a lot of neurodivergent and chronically ill people, and they need it. They need it to be
Mhm.
easier.
Yeah.
And we've all heard from the world, it can't be easier. You have to do what
Yeah.
we do. And it's like, no,
Hmm.
we're not doing that anymore.
And a
So,
huge piece is just getting through the mindset, right? Like giving people
yeah.
permission. You don't have to work that hard and you're allowed to like make some pretty good money and not work that hard and make an impact. And people just, they've been conditioned to work really hard. And so just unlearning that I think is so important. Yeah.
I agree. I definitely agree because
Mm.
yeah, it's hard. As a neurodivergent, chronically ill mom myself, I'm just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not done. I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah. You've got the trifecta. You're a triple threat there. You're a mom, you're neurodivergent, you're chronically ill. Like
Yes.
that's exactly the kind of people that I like to work with because I just like to be like, I get it. We don't want to get out of bed today. So you do not have to work 40 hours a week. We're not going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly. So I agree.
Yeah.
But I do like that you pointed it out because that is an area that I find is a weakness for myself, is selling
Mm,
myself. Like
yeah.
in my private practice, I don't actually have to do a lot of the marketing because
Yeah.
I partner with a company that does it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in coaching and in my author business, it's like I have to learn those skills. Those are not my skill set.
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
I'm in the work, doing the work, I know that it's valuable. I know that what I
Yeah.
have is like comes from my education, first of all, because I am
Mm,
a licensed therapist. I have my master's in counseling. I have coaching training specifically as well.
mm, mm,
Um, and so I like that you're doing that for people because especially I think creatives tend to like
mhm.
look at things and be like, well, who's gonna want to read about this? Or who's gonna
Yeah.
want this kind of writing? Or who's gonna want this, you know, particular type
Yeah.
of like whatever their creative thing is. And so I like that you're doing that for them because I
Yeah.
think there are some people that are like, oh, I don't know where to start. But do you have a wait list going? Because we can link it in the description in the show
Yeah.
notes so that people can
Yeah.
find you.
I'll send you a link so that people can, and then a great way for people really to come and hang out is in my Facebook group if they do
Okay,
Facebook,
good.
because that's where like that's where the course will kind of be launched, and that's where I do free coaching every month. So like once a month we jump on a call and I will give coaching on the topic that was for this month. So this past month we've been talking about money. Next month we're going to be talking about putting yourself out there and doing the things when you feel not ready because nobody feels ready. So we
Of
do like a
course.
call at the
Yes.
start of the month. Yeah. So I do a call at the start of the month, which people can just watch on replay. Like lots of people catch the replay. And then we kind of have a theme for the month and there'll be a little challenge, mini challenge each week in the Facebook group. So it's like a really fun place to hang out. It's the only Facebook group I'm part of on the internet that is not just full of other entrepreneurs trying to sell things to the people in the group. Like it's
Uh-huh.
actually the people in the group are actually mostly my friends and a lot of them are my clients and like they're just real people and we're just doing real work together and it's really, really fun and special. Yeah.
Well, we will link that as well so that
Mm,
they can come find you
yeah.
because I love that too. I've kind of left a lot of the entrepreneur Facebook spaces for that reason.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
know,
because
it's
they're
just
awful,
like,
right?
I don't, even though like I pitch, well, I've actually kind of changed my wording to just being self employed because what I've realized, especially
Mm,
for moms, is there are groups that like consider themselves like entrepreneurs
yeah.
or but there's others that are just like, no, I'm just freelancing. I'm just self-employed.
Yeah.
I'm just doing this. And they're not using that title. And so,
Yeah.
and I wasn't feeling as connected to that title. Like I know that I am because I've started three
Mm,
different businesses, but like
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
wasn't as connected to that title. So, but like I've left kind of some of those spaces because it is just a lot of people just like selling
Yeah.
themselves and there's no real
Hmm.
connection. So I like that you're
Yeah.
fostering a place of real connection. That's what I seek to do as
Mm,
well. That's what I want these
yeah.
videos, these podcasts to do. So,
Mm,
so I'll make sure to link both of those because I think that would be great for some people to like
yeah.
have someone who can look at their stuff and be like, yeah, you can monetize this, or yeah, you can,
Mm,
this is how you can make this work. Because I think for some of us, it
definitely.
takes outside eyes.
It does, and especially for creatives, like you were saying, because we have been told our whole lives, quite often by our parents, that like creative work is not a way to earn money.
Yes.
And that it's frivolous and it's kind of silly and it's not a proper way to do anything useful in the world and that you need to have a fallback career and have a real job. And
Yes.
so I really fight that narrative and just tell people like no, like I've made money out of being creative for 8 years now. I make great money and a lot of my clients or people I've worked with make a lot more money than I do. Like it's definitely it's a thing. So let's just get over that idea that it's not useful and you can't make money from it. Okay. People need art. People need it.
Yes. And I think in this season too, there's a lot of ways. There's so many different ways too to like you can monetize it directly. You can monetize it by
Hmm.
selling ad space. You can monetize it by
Yeah,
like in so many different ways. Writing scripts for
absolutely.
people. You can
Yeah.
monetize it by ghostwriting. You can monetize it by so many different ways. And
Yeah.
I think there was a time where it just felt a lot different. And
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people will look at us and they're like, I don't understand what you do.
Mm.
I don't
Mhm.
understand.
Yeah.
Like, cause sometimes like I'll tell people about like my novels and
Yeah.
I have had very few months where my novels haven't made at least a little bit of something. Like it's not great.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah.
little, and if I marketed them, they'd probably do better. But like I have people who are like, so you do so it's what?
Yeah.
So like, but people are actually like buying them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, and not just my friends and family. Like
Yeah.
it's other people. It's
Yeah.
strangers on the internet. It's
Strangers on
like,
the internet. Yeah.
and it's like, and I think we're in a season across the world where art, literature, just the things that we can engage with that are creative are becoming
Mm.
more important to people. They're becoming, because they're
Yeah.
becoming like, there's so much going on that it's like, oh, this is a good place to rest. And I
Mhm.
think even with like not fiction, but even like just their areas of interest, like
Mm. Absolutely.
psychology, farming,
Mhm.
gardening.
Yeah.
I've been reading so many things about gardening recently myself. So,
Mm. Yeah.
you know, so I love that you're helping them with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
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 So now that you're doing this, how do you think it has had, what is the positive impact you've seen in your family, in your motherhood journey, and all of that?
I love earning money. So like, and
That's
I don't
always
even
a
mean
bonus.
I don't even mean a lot of money. I just mean it's such a positive impact on my self-esteem coming back from parent like having this baby, going through this whole thing and then feeling like that classic thing of like, oh, because I'm someone who loves to produce and loves to do stuff. It's
Mhm.
really hard sometimes just sitting around with the baby all day, like, and I know the work I'm doing is really, really important, but I'm not getting the same dopamine hit. But if
Yeah.
I sit with a client for a couple of hours and then I get some money show up in my bank account and then I go to my husband and go, hey, guess what? I made some money. Like, and we can do something with this. And I feel really excited. It's a good dopamine hit. So it's been really good for my self-esteem to be back in business again and be freelancing again. And I've seen that happen for a couple of my clients as well, who are like mums and they're looking to do something creative. And then they go, oh my gosh, I'm producing something and I'm getting some money for it. It's so positive. So that's been
Yeah.
great. And then I think I just feel more confidence for our future. Like I've always loved to be self-reliant rather than relying on other people to employ me. And
Yeah.
so I'm just really enjoying being back in that world again where I'm like, cool, I'm going to create this course and it's going to cost this much. And I only have to sell like 50 of these a year and I'll have a really decent part-time income. And then my husband can do this. And then we could, like just thinking about the future of our family and having to look after our kids and all that. It just feels exciting. Like, so I just think everybody, even if you love to have a 9 to 5 job and that's great for you, I love to help people to have a little bit of a side hustle or a little bit of something on the side because it's so powerful and can just be really fun. And I just think it brings a lot of kind of joy and self-esteem and lightness and fun into people's lives. And I'd love to facilitate that.
I like that. I like that you said that because it really can be what I've noticed. One aspect of my program and what I work with is reconnecting with yourself in motherhood because we get
Yeah.
lost
Mm,
in just the minutia, the day to day, and we're like, wait, who was I before?
mm,
What was I doing before this new
yeah.
life entered? And now I have this whole other human to take care of, but what about my human?
Mm,
What about that? And so I like that you said that because it is something I know whenever, even in my private practice, when I have an off week, but I still get one or two, I get paid for like the two clients that I see in person. That I have to wait for insurance because I do some
yeah.
insurance clients. But when I get those two clients that are like self pay, I'm like, yay, we can make money this week. Or
Yeah. Yeah.
when the insurance catches up and they're like, here you go, here's your lump
Yeah.
reimbursement, and I'm like, great.
Yeah.
And
Woohoo.
so it even because I only stopped working for a couple of different periods, but I had a lot less time, a lot less hours because I was
Mm,
trying to figure everything out. But just seeing that you are taking something that you've worked on, that you have learned,
mm,
that you create and you put it out there,
mm,
and then you get something back, but you also not just the monetary, but you get feedback from clients or like
yeah.
when I was teaching, I
Yeah.
was getting feedback from students. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so I am making an impact. I'm seeing it
Yes.
in this exchange here. And
Yeah.
that's really nice as well.
And I think the community aspect has been overwhelming and something I didn't expect. Like, again, being as a mom, being quite isolated, having lots of like mom friends, but all your interactions are kind of like around babies,
Right.
And
Yeah.
then when I started my business, having all of these people come out of the woodwork who've known me in the past and be interested in my business and want to work with me and tell their friends about it and join my Facebook group and show up on the live calls and send comments and send me messages that say, hey, I did this thing you were talking about, and now this is so much better. Thank you so much for sharing that. Or like working
Yeah.
with clients, like suddenly I've got this community of people that I'm at the center of in a way that I didn't expect at all. And that's, I think, really beautiful as well when you start a business that has impact. That's a immeasurable benefit, so much more than money. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you for joining me today. This was great. And
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. I will definitely put all your links in all the descriptions so that people can
Great.
find you.